With that, prosecution, call your next witness, please.
Thanks, Judge. Good afternoon. We would call Detective Christina Perry.
Detective, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
Detective Christina Perry, Perry.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a detective with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 9 years.
And what are your current duties?
I'm still a detective with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office under the Special Victims Unit.
And what is a Special Victims Unit?
Typically, we do cases involving children, cases involving at-risk adults, and sex crimes.
How about in January of 2020, where were you assigned within the Sheriff's Office?
I was with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office as a detective in the Financial Crimes Unit.
Were you asked to assist in the investigation in the disappearance of Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir.
And what was your role back then?
I'm sorry, as far as...
You had a lot of roles, right?
Yeah.
Is that why it was tough to answer?
Yes.
Let's talk about the investigation kind of as a whole. Was there a group of detectives working together, sharing information, following leads in the search in the hopes of finding Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir. Due to the size of this investigation, it was kind of an all hands on deck. We were all involved in assisting with this investigation.
Back on January 28th of 2020, were you assigned to look into some social media pages regarding the disappearance of Gannon Stauch?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that. What was that all about?
So I was trying to kind of gather more information because we were at an early point in the investigation, kind of just trying to figure out any little lead that we could go off of. And I found a variety of different search groups that were titled things like Gannon Stauch Search Party, Where's Gannon Stauch? And so it was kind of a variety of different groups. So I started using a undercover Facebook profile that is used solely for investigative purposes to get into those groups to see if there's anybody that was posting messages about what was going on or if there was any intel that we could gather by following those groups.
So would you routinely look at those different pages to see if there's any investigatory leads?
Yes, sir.
Things? Okay. Back on January 28th of 2020, were you, along with Detective Bethel, in the process of interviewing Al Stauch and the defendant, Leticia Stauch?
I believe so, yes.
And were you present during the first interview at the police department with Al Stauch?
I was present, however, I believe that was the time that I was working on the Facebook groups, so I was not necessarily watching the entire interview.
Were you present when Mr. Stauch called in and said, hey, I got some additional information to give you?
Yes, sir.
And what was that additional information? Do you recall?
I know the interaction was Detective Bethel was on the phone with Mr. Stauch, and he had had some additional information about Ms. Stauch's Tiguan not being at the residence.
Did he indicate to you that he went to French Elementary School and didn't see the car there, and that was troublesome because Ms. Stauch had told him that's where the Tiguan was at?
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes, sir.
And what did that cause you to do as a result of getting that information?
So myself and Sergeant Kurt Smith went to look at the surrounding schools, to include French Elementary, to see if we were able to locate her Tiguan.
Okay. And do you remember about what time of night that would have happened at?
I believe it was about 7:30, a little bit after.
If your report indicates that you went to Mesa Ridge High School at 7:37 p.m. on January 28th, 2020, would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
And is that the first area you went to go look for the Tiguan at?
I believe so, yes.
And did you and Sergeant Smith go to the Colorado Springs Airport to look for the Tiguan?
We did not. I went with Detective Marissa Williams.
Okay, so you and Detective Williams went to the airport.
Yes, sir.
What time did you go to look for the Tiguan at the airport?
I do not recall.
Would it have been after 7:37 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And why did you go to the airport to look for the Tiguan?
So we knew that she had obtained a rental car, which we were notified by Mr. Stauch. So we thought that most people get their rental cars from the airport. So we thought we would go and kind of trace the steps, see if we were able to locate the Tiguan at the airport.
And where did you look at the airport, within the airport, looking for this vehicle?
So we had checked the short-term lots as well as the long-term lot, I believe.
Did you go to the rental car return area as well?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to locate this black Tiguan that Ms. Stauch was driving?
No, sir.
Did you later learn as to when that Tiguan had left the airport?
I did. I do not recall what time it was right now, though.
Were you involved in the search of the Tiguan?
I was not.
Okay, we'll cover that with someone else then. Were you asked to go to the residence to pick up some additional witnesses, i.e. Gannon Stauch's sister, Letecia Stauch?
Yes, sir.
What was that all about? Tell the jury about that.
So we wanted to conduct a forensic interview with Leticia Stauch, and so I was requested to come and with Detective Williams or transport Lena to the office of the sheriff for that interview.
And did you do that?
We got there, and Detective Williams ended up driving her herself while I stayed to assist with the search of the residence.
Did you also come into contact with an individual by the name of Harley Hunt?
Yes, sir.
And do you know who Harley Hunt is?
Yes, my understanding is that Harley Hunt was Miss Stauch's daughter.
And did you or anyone else attempt to interview Harley Hunt on January 28, 2020, when you went back to the residence?
Yes, sir. When I was there, Detective Arndt had advised me that she had tried to speak with Harley, and Harley had refused to respond to the office for an interview and refused to give any information.
And while you're there at the residence, do you remember about what time you got back there?
I would have to reference my report.
If your report says 10 p.m., would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
So 10 p.m. on January 28, 2020, you're at 6627 Mandan.
Yes, sir.
And who else was there? Do you recall to conduct the search?
I know there was Detective Farrell, Detective Arndt, and Detective V. Hill were also present.
And what was your role in that part of the search?
So I performed scribe duties. And scribe duties is I record all evidence that's collected and assist with putting it into packaging to be transported to our evidence facility.
And so could you explain that process to the jury? Do other detectives collect the evidence, give it to you, you bag and tag it, so to speak?
Yes, sir. So when you perform scribe duties, it's like a carbon copy piece of paper, and every item that another detective finds during the search, they would bring me. I would package it in an envelope and collect it all in one place, and then I was responsible for transporting it to the evidence facility when it would later be processed into evidence and completely sealed and everything.
And approximately how long were you there? Do you recall?
No, several hours.
And did you have further contact with Harley Hunt at that time?
While I was waiting for other detectives, I spoke with her kind of about various topics. She had notified me about her career aspirations and about kind of different various things. But if I would mention anything involving her brother, she would refuse to talk to me.
Was that unusual to you?
It seemed odd, yes.
Was she otherwise pretty talkative when she didn't talk about the reason why you're at the house searching?
Yes, sir.
And did you note the things that you actually bagged and later submitted into the evidence locker?
Yes, sir.
Do you have, can you tell the jury those items and I can help you refresh?
Yeah, I have a copy of my report if I can reference.
If you could turn to, it would be page date stamp 10075, 5 of 6 of your report.
Okay.
Have you done that?
Yes, sir.
Here are the items that you bagged and later submitted into evidence.
Okay. We collected a burned carpet square found in the trash can located in the backyard of the house. And this was found by Detective Farrell. A candle that appeared to have carpet fibers, a sock, and other items melted into the wax. This was found in a different trash can located in the back of the house by Detective Farrell.
I'm going to object as the hearsay that where the stuff was found and who found it would have been related by somebody else.
Mr. Young?
Yeah, and it goes to the chain of custody. Detective Farrell's going to be testifying next, and he's going to cover these items. But since she's the one that actually put them in envelopes and sealed them, I've got to be able to cover it with her.
Overruled.
I think you're on number 3 there.
Yes, number 3 was swabs from a black and white Nike woman's right shoe. This was found in the laundry room by the garage by Detective Farrell. Swabs from a black and white woman's left shoe. This was found in the laundry room by the garage by Detective Farrell. Swabs of the light switch located in the basement hallway outside of Gannon's room, collected by Detective Farrell. Swabs of the light switch located inside Gannon's room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Farrell. Swabs of Gannon's bed located on the east wall of the room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Pete Vigil. Additional swabs of Gannon's bed located on the east wall of the room in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Vigil. Swabs of the exterior side of Gannon's door in the basement of the home, collected by Detective Vigil.
And so you noted who collected those items. Would those detectives physically hand those items over to you for you to seal them in an envelope?
Correct. I would place them into an envelope and we would close it but not completely seal it until it was later processed at the evidence facility.
And did you later process those items at the evidence facility?
Yes, sir.
And did you seal them with tape?
Correct.
And is that so when the items would go to the lab for testing, they would be sealed until someone from the lab opened them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me turn your attention now to January 29th of 2020. Were you at the El Paso County Sheriff's Police Department here, right downtown?
Sheriff's office. Yes, sir.
Is that on Bermejo and Tejon, just across the street?
Yes, sir.
Were you there waiting for Miss Stauch, the defendant, to show up for an interview?
Yes, sir.
And did she show up?
No, sir.
Did she show up late?
I believe she showed up later after I had already left.
Okay. When she arrived, did you go out to look at the vehicle that she arrived in?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what kind of vehicle did she arrive in?
In her VW Tiguan.
And is this the same VW Tiguan that you were looking for the night before?
Yes, sir.
You had a description of it, I take it?
Yes, sir.
Did you have photos of it?
Yes.
Did you recognize it? Where did you see it on the 29th when Miss Stauch came down to the Sheriff's Department?
She was parked inside the El Paso County Sheriff's Office parking facility that is located off of Castilla. And it was parked, I believe, on the 3rd floor when we located it.
And what was its condition when you saw it?
It appeared to be freshly washed. There was still water droplets all over the outside of it.
How do you know it was freshly washed?
It was a otherwise dry day. It wasn't raining. And so the presence of water on the entire exterior was unusual.
And was Detective Farrell with you at that point?
I believe so, yes.
And did he take pictures of the vehicle?
I believe so.
And did you later assist in obtaining a search warrant to search that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Based on what Ms. Stauch had to say in her interview, did you help obtain another warrant to search the house at 6627 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
And as far as you know, did that house go back and be searched on January 29th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Were you involved in that at all?
I believe that one was just the Metro Crime Lab.
Did you also have an opportunity to do what's called a canvass of various dumpsters in the university shopping center?
Yes, sir.
Why did you go to the university shopping center to do that?
So we had received information that Miss Stauch was seen at the Petco located at University Village on 2 occasions that day.
This would have been what day? Do you recall?
I believe the 28th. But
If your report indicates it
I'm
was
sorry,
January.
27th. There we go, sorry.
So January 27th, 2020, you had information that Ms. Stauch was at this shopping center.
Yes, sir.
And so what is a canvas of dumpsters? What does that mean?
So kind of looking for something out of place, perhaps something that would have been at the home that was removed from the home prior to our search, such as a suitcase or bedding or something along those lines.
Okay. Were you able to find anything in looking in those dumpsters and things?
No, sir.
And do you know how many times Ms. Stauch went to that particular shopping area that day?
I believe it was 2 times.
And we're going to look at some surveillance video from some neighbor's house later on this afternoon. Does that coincide with some of the times that we see Ms. Stauch leaving
Yes, sir.
her residence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to take you to January 31st of 2020 now. Did you receive some information that Ms. Stauch may had rented another vehicle?
Yes, sir.
What was that information, and can you share that with the jury?
I'd have to reference my report to remember the model of that vehicle.
Sure. We can go to page, it's Bates stamp 01200. It would be page 3 of 3 of your report dated January 31st, 2020.
I apologize. I do not have that report with me.
May I approach the witness, Sean?
You may.
I'm afraid you can read that top paragraph to yourself.
Thank you.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
You know the make and model of the car that Ms. Stauch was understanding may have rented at that time?
Yes, sir. I had been advised by Detective Farrell that she had rented a Nissan Altima.
And did you later learn that it was actually her aunt who had rented that vehicle?
I don't think I had been made aware of that.
Did you do anything to obtain a GPS or a warrant to put a GPS device on that particular vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And why did you do that?
So due to kind of the ongoing issues we'd been having with knowing her Miss Stauch's location, because she kept telling us she was on her way and then she wouldn't be, and everything going on, we were afraid there was a chance of her fleeing. She had a lot of family out of state, so we were concerned that she may try to return out of state, and so we decided to get a tracking warrant to be aware of her location.
And did you in fact do that?
Yes, sir.
And do you know whether or not a tracking unit was placed on that vehicle?
It was.
Did you also have information with regards to some financial transactions that were taking place, Stauch and Harley Hunt and their various bank accounts?
Yes, sir. We were made aware that a large amount of money had been transferred into Miss Stauch's account, I believe from Harley's account.
And would that have been $2,600?
Yes, sir.
And was that concerning to the fact they may be leaving the area due to that transaction?
Yes, sir. That kind of corroborated our thought of she'd be moving this money so that she was able to flee the state.
And did you know where Ms. Stauch was from?
South Carolina.
And now I want to turn your attention to February 1st of 2020. Have you still been continuing watching these social media groups regarding Gannon Stauch and things like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you at one point look into a group that called Support T Stauch or words to that effect?
Yes, sir.
And was that on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Did you see anything unusual in those postings during this time period?
If I recall, that was the account that there was a family member of Miss Stauch posting on that page.
Okay. And during the course of the investigation, Did you learn of a photograph that was taken of Gannon Stauch while he was in bed during the early morning hours of January 27th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And did that cause you to look for anything based on those photographs?
Yes, sir. We had observed that the photograph with Gannon had a specific set of bedding in it that was not located during any of the previous search warrants at the residence.
Now, at this time, I'd request to publish Exhibit 20 that's already been admitted in evidence.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Judge. Okay, behind you and to my left is People's Exhibit 20. Is that the photograph you're talking about that you learned was taken on the early morning hours of January 27th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And what is it in this photograph? What items are you looking for at this point?
So the red blanket with the snowflakes on it had not been located, as well as the sheet that is up above him, not the one that's on the bed, but it's blue and I believe it has airplanes on it.
Okay.
Or anchors, I'm sorry.
Anchors?
Yes.
And what about the pillow? Was the pillow ever recovered or ever found?
No, sir.
And so what did you do? We can take that down now, thanks. But what did you do to look for these items and where did you look?
So we looked at a couple different locations. The primary one being we went to the El Paso County Transfer Station, known as the dump. And we had the staff locate the area of trash that had been collected around the time frame of the 27th. And they had told us where those items were, and we conducted a search of all of the trash and garbage, attempting to locate that bedding.
And would this be the landfill or, as you
Yes, sir.
said, the dump?
Yes, sir.
And did you search in the areas where that neighborhood, that trash would go to?
Yes, sir. They had located where that area had been dumped, and we were able to identify mail from different addresses on Mandan and Intrepid and in that area.
And did you find anything related to 6627 Mandan Drive?
No, sir.
I'm going to jump to February 4th now of 2020. Were you also assigned to review various surveillance videos from residents?
Yes, sir.
And would these be like ring video or doorbell videos, those type of things?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to start out with video footage from 6643 Mandan Drive. Are you familiar with that address?
Yes, sir.
And did you review all the video from that particular address?
Yes, sir.
And just so we're clear, are some of these videos different? Are some of them motion activated and some of them 24/7?
Yes, sir. There's different types of video surveillances. Some of them are set by the user that is able to only alert when there's motion within a certain distance, and they're able to adjust it. So they may only turn on if somebody approaches the front door, whereas others record constantly.
And the one we're going to talk about, 6643 Mandan, does that record constantly?
Yes, sir.
Did you sit down and watch hours and hours of surveillance video just to see what happens during the course of the 26th, the 27th, into the 28th?
Yes, sir.
What were you looking for?
Trying to see if there was anything that we could go off of as far as suspicious activity, if we could see the time frames where Gannon was seen last, if we could kind of piece together the story of what happened.
Were you also looking for cooperative evidence of things that Ms. Stauch had told Detective Bethel and other members of your organization?
Yes, sir.
Were you familiar with this story about her being raped and somebody, construction guy coming to the house, a carpet guy named Eduardo, that kind of thing?
Yes, sir.
And were you watching this video nonstop to see if anybody would come or leave from that residence, especially in a truck that had carpet repair on it?
Yes, sir.
And was that based on what Ms. Stauch was telling you?
Yes, sir.
Or not telling you, but telling members of your team?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see a construction worker go in and out of the residence at the time frame that Gannon Stauch went missing?
No, sir.
When you're reviewing these particular videos, were you familiar with the people who lived at 6627 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
Knew what Al Stauch looked like?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what Leticia Stauch looked like?
Yes, sir.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Could you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
Ms. Stauch is wearing a light pink shirt.
May the record reflect identification of the defendant.
The record will so reflect. Go ahead.
Did you know what Lena Stauch looked like?
Yes, sir.
And Lena was the 8-year-old girl that lived there?
Yes, sir.
And did you know what Gannon Stauch looked like?
Yes, sir.
How about Harley Hunt?
Yes, sir.
You actually met Harley on the night of the 28th, right?
Yes, sir.
And did you know what vehicles were associated? We'll start with Harley. What kind of vehicle was Harley driving?
I remember hers was a silver sedan. I don't recall what model hers was.
Was it a white Volkswagen Jetta?
Sorry, white. Yes, sir.
Okay. And we already talked about Miss Stauch and the black Tiguan Volkswagen.
Yes, sir.
Was there another vehicle that was assigned or that Al Stauch drove?
Yes, sir. There was a red Nissan Frontier.
And so as you're watching the videos, if you saw those vehicles move around, would you make note of it in your report?
Yes, sir.
If you saw those individuals walking around, would you make note of that in your report?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, if you saw a carpet worker named Eduardo go in the house and leave with a suitcase, would you put that in your report?
Yes, sir.
Did you see that?
No, sir, I did not.
When you were looking for the blankets and the pillow and the covers from Gannon's bed, did you have any information as to where to look?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
It's not the first time I heard that. Did you have any GPS information as to Miss Stauch and her phone?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what a Life 360 app is?
Yes, sir.
And was there a Life 360 app associated with the defendant, Miss Stauch?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to track her whereabouts based on that app?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what a Life 360 app does?
Yes. Yes, sir.
What does it do?
So it's a app used a lot of time with families, so you're able to know where your family members are and it tracks your location.
And so were you able to search various areas that Miss Stauch may have been looking for items that might be related to this investigation?
Yes, sir.
Did you find anything?
No, sir.
Now, we talked about dumpsters and canvassing dumpsters and things like that. Is it critical that you get to the dumpsters before the dumpsters go to, your words, the dump?
Yes, sir.
And by the time you get to this Life 360 app, had several days gone by?
Yes, sir.
In front of you, there's a series of discs. I'd like to start with People's Exhibit 41, which should be the one on top. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And what is People's Exhibit 41?
It is a disc containing video footage from 6643 Mandan Drive.
And would that be related to January 27th of 2020,
Yes, sir.
approximately 10:13 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
And did you have an opportunity to review that disc?
I did.
How do you know that?
My initials and date are on the top of the CD.
And does this particular disc have 2 clips on it?
Yes, sir.
And is it the disc that shows 6627 Mandan Drive from 6643 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
And does it accurately depict a black Tiguan, a red Nissan truck in that area?
Yes, sir.
And does it accurately depict the video that you reviewed from that location?
Yes, sir.
We would move to admit People's Exhibit 41 at this time.
No objection.
Exhibit 41 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Let's go to 42 now. Do you see People's Exhibit 42?
Yes, sir.
What is People's Exhibit 42?
It is going to be another video clip that depicts from 6643 that depicts 6627. That is later in the day than the first disc.
We talked about the Petco situation where Ms. Stauch went there a couple times in an afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Are these timeframes when the vehicle leaves and when the vehicle come back consistent with what we know and when she was at the Petco?
Yes, sir.
And does People's Exhibit 42 accurately depict the surveillance video that you saw from 6643 Mandan Drive at 6627 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 42.
Defense?
No objection.
Exhibit 42 will be admitted as well.
Now, in People's Exhibit 42, can you see individuals get out of this red Nissan truck?
Yes, sir.
And People's Exhibit 43, is that an enhanced version of People's Exhibit 42? So you can zoom in and see, for instance, individuals getting out of the truck at a closer view?
Yes, sir.
And does that accurately depict People's Exhibit 42, or at least a portion of that, as to when these individuals get out of the truck?
Yes, sir.
And can you see it more clear because of the zoomed in focused version?
Yes, sir.
We would move to admit People's Exhibit 43.
Defense? Exhibit 43 will be admitted. Go ahead.
Next one is going to be People's Exhibit 46. What is People's Exhibit 46?
It's going to be another clip from the same address pointed at 6843 and shows Lena arriving home later in the day.
And is that accurately depict the video that you saw from 6643 Mandan Drive that depicts 6627 Mandan Drive when Lena gets home from school?
Yes, sir.
And does it depict Lena out in front of the residence for a certain amount of time after she gets home from school?
Yes, sir.
And does it accurately depict that as to what you saw on 6643 from 6643 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 46.
Defense? Exhibit 46 will be admitted.
And then People's Exhibit 47. Do you have that? What is People's Exhibit 47?
So that's going to be later again in the day once Harley returns home to the house.
And again, does that accurately depict that portion of the video that you reviewed from 6643 Mandan Drive?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 47.
No objection.
Exhibit 47 will be admitted.
And then finally, we have People's Exhibit 220 there. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
What is People's Exhibit 220?
That is when the vehicle leaves the house later in the day.
Would that be the next day of January 28th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And did you review the surveillance video on the 28th in the morning hours
Yes, sir.
from 6643 Mandan Drive? Does that People's Exhibit 220 accurately depict what you saw? A vehicle leaving 6627, another vehicle backing out and backing into the garage?
Yes, sir.
Move to admit People's Exhibit 220.
Defense?
No objection.
Exhibit 220 will be admitted.
So we're going to go back to People's Exhibit 41. We indicated that it's two clips. Can you just briefly summarize what we're about to see, or would you prefer to do that after we see it?
I prefer to do it after.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. That's why I threw that in there. So why don't we publish People's Exhibit 41? And again, these are two clips. We'll start with the first clip on the disc, okay? So why don't we pause that real quick, if you don't mind? I'm sorry, Ms. Gratiano. So now that we see the first slides of this People's Exhibit 41, can you just point out what we're looking at and where 6627 would be located? There should be a pointer up there somewhere. I say pointer, that.
Yes, sir. So right here is the red Nissan Frontier associated to this address. So this house right here would be 6627.
And can we see the black Tiguan in this image?
Yes, sir. The black Tiguan.
And so would 6643 be a couple houses north of 6627?
Yes, sir.
So we're now looking from north to the south towards 6627, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and hit play, please. Pause, please. We see an individual walking there to the red Nissan truck. Do you know who that individual is?
It appeared to be Gannon.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, sir.
Well, does Gannon drive the truck?
No, sir. Can we, sorry, go.
Is that hard for you to see from there?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we continue to play and watch and see what happens, okay?
All right.
Does that kind of refresh your recollection of who that might be?
Yes, sir. I believe that was Miss Stauch moving the truck.
The defendant, Ms. Stauch?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we go ahead and resume, please? Thank you. Can we pause it, please? Now we see an individual walk towards the back of the red Nissan. Do you know who that individual is?
I apologize for before that was Gannon.
So is this when we see Gannon come to the truck?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall the clothing that he had on?
I do not.
Is it a little bit more difficult to see on these TV monitors than a computer?
Yes, sir.
I imagine when you're watching these videos, you were probably looking at a computer screen.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and hit resume, please. That's clip one for the record. It's approximately 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, clip two, does that overlap clip one a little bit? Will we pick up towards the end of clip one and then take it from there?
Yes, sir.
We can play clip two now, please. For the record, that concludes clip 2 of People's Exhibit 41, which is 3 minutes and 1 second long. We talked about when you initially saw this video, you were sitting in a computer screen. Would you take notes as to what you actually saw happen and then later transfer those notes to a report?
Yes, sir.
And do you have that report there in front of you?
I believe so.
I'll direct you to page 3 of 4 of your report dated March 10th, 2020. Page stamp 11137.
I'm sorry, you said March 10th.
Yes.
I do not have that one with me.
Okay. Let me approach, Your Honor.
You may.
A copy of the report.
Yes, sir.
And do you have the descriptions of what you see taking place on the video as you're watching it from your computer screen?
Yes, sir.
And can you just kind of read to yourself what you have noted from People's Exhibit 41 that we just saw when Gannon and the defendant leave in the red Frontier truck?
Yes.
Okay, have you had a chance to do that?
Yes, sir.
And in your report, you specifically put who walks out to the truck when it's in the street, gets in it, drives out, and backs into the driveway.
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
Miss Stauch.
And when you're watching this on your computer, are you able to go back and watch it several times to make sure you got everything right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you also note when they come back out of the house and the truck is in the driveway, who gets in and who's where?
Yes, sir.
Who do you note? What do you note there?
I had observed that Gannon stepped into the driver's side back seat, and Miss Stauch appeared to get into the driver's seat after she walked back inside and then came back out.
And do you have a time for that particular action?
Yes, that was at 10:13 a.m.
And do you have a time for when they actually leave?
That was at 10:15 a.m.
And does that coincide with this Petco trip that we talked about where she's seen at the Petco area and you search that shopping area?
Yes, sir.
Now, before we play People's Exhibit 42, what I'd like to do is have you summarize what we're about to see in People's Exhibit 42, okay?
Okay.
Can you do that?
Yes, sir. So in that exhibit, one of the other vehicles is leaving the house.
Well, is People's Exhibit 42 when they come back after they leave at 2:20 p.m. in the afternoon on January 27th?
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong disc. This is confusing me. Okay, yes, sorry. 42 is when they are seen returning back to the residence.
Okay, so what do you see? What do you see on the video and what did you note as you're watching it closely at your desk?
So I observed that the red Frontier returns, and it was initially hard to tell because she's seen stepping out of the vehicle, and then upon closer examination, it was seen that a shadow is seen in the footage of what appears to be Gannon stepping out of the vehicle as well.
And does that happen as soon as the driver's side door opens in the video?
Yes, sir.
This time we request to publish People's Exhibit 42.
You may.
Can you pause it, please? Sorry. So we paused it at 2:35. Did you see the shadow you were talking about in this particular video clip?
It is hard to see from this distance.
Can you see it clearer in People's Exhibit 43?
Yes, sir.
Now, I probably should have asked you this before we played this, but where does the shadow come from?
I believe it is the back passenger's seat. The door opens. If I could refresh my recollection.
Well, it's on the opposite side of the truck that we're seeing here in the rear
Yeah.
passenger side seat, right side of the truck.
Yes, sir.
And does it happen very quickly in the door?
Yes, sir.
We can go ahead and resume, please. That concludes People's Exhibit 42. It's 7 minutes and 26 seconds long. I want to talk to you about the end there. We see the black Tiguan right back out of the driveway, turn around, and then back into the driveway. Do you recall seeing that?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell whether or not it backed all the way into the garage?
Based on the shadows underneath the frontier, it appeared to back all the way into the garage.
And are you familiar with other surveillance video in this investigation from across the street, 6626 Mandan Drive?
No, sir.
You didn't watch that one?
I don't think so, no.
And at the end of People's Exhibit 42, we see some individuals, looks like they cross the street at the end of the road,
Yes, sir.
start walking up the sidewalk.
Yes, sir.
Is that soon after the Tiguan is backed into the garage?
Yes, sir.
And then we see a vehicle come by shortly after that?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, if there's other surveillance video across the street at 6626, they would pick up that same activity so you can coincide the two different videos. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We're going to play People's Exhibit 43 now, and I just want to give it some context. It's not going to be, excuse me, everything that we just saw in People's Exhibit 42. Tell us what we're going to see.
So 43 is going to be the kind of zoomed in on those shadows that I referenced previously of being able to see a shadow consistent with somebody stepping out of the frontier.
Okay. That concludes People's Exhibit 43. It's 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Could you see it clear in People's Exhibit 43, the leg drop on the other side of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And do you know whether or not the garage door was open or closed when they got back?
I do not.
Would it be able to show it if it was from 6626 Mandan Drive across the street, if the garage was open or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you annotate in your report what time Ms. Stauch moves the Tiguan to back it into the garage?
Yes. Yes, sir.
What time was that?
2:24 p.m.
And the next disc, People's Exhibit 46, is that approximately 3:11 p.m. when we see a school bus coming by that has Lena on it?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, publish People's Exhibit 46 now, please. Go ahead and pause it first. Okay, we paused it at 2:07 into the video. There appears to be a child by the red Nissan truck walking up the driveway. Do you know who that is?
It appeared to be Lena.
And is that consistent with her coming from the bus stop, which is around the corner?
Yes, sir.
There appears to be people working on some kind of electrical box out in the front yard of 6627.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not those individuals were ever interviewed?
Detective Arndt was going to follow up with them. I'm not sure if they were interviewed.
Okay. But what do we see with Lena coming home from school? Does she have anything on her person?
It's hard to tell from here. I believe she had a backpack on her, though.
And is she able to go into the house when she comes home from school?
I believe she went in very briefly.
Can we work on the volume? Or not go up any higher? We're going to see if we can increase the volume, Judge, before you hit resume.
All right.
Could you hear Lena talking and saying things to the individuals out in the front yard and to someone at the house?
Yes, sir.
Good. Let's go ahead and resume it now, please.
No, street lamp came down. Yeah, way down there. I'm on a new wire. Hold the wire.
Can you pause it, please? Who do we see that are walking on the sidewalk?
Appears to be Lena.
And did you see where she came from?
It looked like she came from the area of the front door garage area of the house.
Did she come from the opposite side of the truck?
I did not see that part. I apologize.
Um, just to kind of give us some context, they get home at 2:20 p.m. What time was it when Miss Stout moved the Tiguan into the garage?
At 2:24.
And the school bus comes back at 3:11, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And this video is 19 minutes and 29 seconds long.
Yes, sir.
Is Lena outside for this entire 19 minutes and 29 seconds?
I'm unable to tell due to her being off camera.
What time would it be if we take from the time the Volkswagen backed into the garage up until the end of this 19, I guess it would be what, 3:30, something like that?
Approximately an hour.
And from you reviewing all this video, who are the two people inside the house for that hour?
Gannon and his mother, or his stepmother, sorry, the defendant.
We can resume, please. Again, is that Lena that we see walking by? It's at 9:06, right?
Did it turn on? You gotta hook it up up there. Oh, how did we get up there? Yeah.
We paused it at 10:50. Your Honor, I think it might be a good idea for the jury to stretch out maybe or stand up or.
Okay, we can do that. Everybody do a seventh inning stretch. All right, we all good to go? All right.
So before we hit resume and before the seventh inning stretch here, did you see where Lena went as she walked back towards the house?
Yeah, she appeared to go on the other side of the Nissan.
And would that be consistent with going through the garage door? In other words, when we saw her get off the bus and come home from school, she walked on this side of the Nissan to the front door, perhaps.
Yes, sir.
Is it also consistent with going to the garage door if she's on the other side of the truck?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can go ahead and resume, please. Okay, that concludes People's Exhibit 46. We see, is that Lane on the bicycle riding away from her house?
Yes, sir.
Do we ever see her when she gets back to the house? Are we able to pick that up at all?
We do not.
So we don't know what time she got back into the house?
Correct.
Okay. Now I'm going to publish People's Exhibit 47 in a minute, but before we do that, is People's Exhibit 47 essentially Harley getting home from work, Harley Hunt?
Yes, sir.
And is Harley Hunt in the house for a period of time?
Yes.
And then what happens after 10 or so minutes?
Harley and Lena both appear to leave in Harley's vehicle.
Yeah, if it's okay, what we may do is start it as to when Harley gets home and then fast forward to when they leave. Because the rest of it's just the white Jetta sitting in front of the house, unless the court wants to watch the whole.
Is there an objection by the defense?
No.
Uh,
That's fine.
Okay, we'll go ahead and publish People's Exhibit 47 now. So we paused it at 55 seconds. We saw a white vehicle pull up. Do you know whose vehicle that is?
It'd be Harley's VW Jetta, or Jetta, sorry.
And was that Harley who got out of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
She goes in, and then you said her and Lena come out later?
Yes, sir.
If we can just fast forward to about, I would say 11 minutes. Okay, go back just a little bit. Right there's good. So before you hit play, we're at 15:13 on the video, Your Honor. Go ahead, hit play. Okay, that concludes People's Exhibit 47 at 16 minutes and 16 seconds. If you have Harley getting home at 4:37 p.m. on January 28, 2020, she's in the house for approximately 15 minutes. Would it be safe to say that at 4:52 p.m. is when her and Lena leave?
Yes, sir. I believe I have 451 annotated in my report.
I was close. Okay. Let's go to People's Exhibit 220 now. Now we're on January, that was January 27th. Okay, so January 27th at 4:37 p.m., Harley gets home.
Yes, sir.
And 4:51, they leave to go. Okay? Now we're at the 28th, and I want to turn your attention to People's Exhibit 222. Based- 220, I'm sorry. Yeah, People's Exhibit 220, you're correct, Your Honor. We have two clips on this. Could you describe what the first clip is, if you remember?
The first one would be the defendant leaving for the airport in her vehicle, and the second clip was when she had Harley move her Jetta, and they kind of were just repositioning vehicles in the driveway.
So would the first clip be at 8:13 a.m. or approximately that time frame?
I believe so.
And based on your understanding of the investigation, that's when she's going to the Colorado Springs Airport to pick up Al Stauch, her husband at the time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can go ahead and play clip 1, please. Now, we just finished clip 1. It was, God, I want to say 50-something seconds. I didn't catch the time, Your Honor. The Tiguan leaves the driveway and it looks like it stopped at the end of the driveway. Did you see that?
Yes, sir.
Is that an issue with the tape, or did Ms. Stauch actually stop and sit there for a second?
I do not recall.
You don't know?
I'm not sure.
All right. Let's go ahead and play clip 2. Okay, that includes clip 2, 3 minutes long. Did it appear to you that the Volkswagen Jetta went into the garage?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what time that took place in relation to the defendant leaving for the airport at 8:13 a.m.?
I do not.
Do you have that in your report?
I do not. No.
Can I retrieve that report, Your Honor?
You may go ahead.
I can just have a second, Your Honor.
All right.
Do you have your report dated February 4th, 2020?
I do.
I'll turn your attention to the last page, which is 5 of 5. It's bait stamp 01426. Do you document when the Jetta pulls out of the driveway and then pulls back into the driveway and goes into the garage?
Yes, sir. That was at 8:51 a.m.
And when it pulls back in, is it 8:53 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those are my questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Detective. How are you?
Good afternoon. Doing all right.
All right. So you've been a detective with the sheriff's office for 9 years now?
Detective for about 3 years. Been employed for 9 years.
Oh, okay. And going back kind of to the beginning with this, with this case, how many searches did you do of 6627 Mandan Drive?
I believe I participated in 2 of them.
Okay, and one would have been on the Tuesday and then one on the Wednesday. Were they in back-to-back days?
I believe so.
Okay. And what time did you get there on Tuesday?
I would have to refresh my recollection by referencing my report.
You have that report up there?
I believe so.
Okay.
I arrived at the residence approximately 10 o'clock on the 28th, so I believe it was about that time when I
Okay, 10 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock
10 o'clock p.m.
p.m.? Okay. And when you got there, who's there?
At that time, there was Detective Farrell, Detective Vigil, Detective Arndt. I had arrived with Detective Williams, Lena, and Harley were at the residence.
They were at the residence.
Yes, sir.
Now, ideally, if you're doing a search of a crime scene, the best case scenario, you're there quickly after the crime occurred.
Yes, sir.
And then that crime scene would be secured.
Yes, sir.
Why would you want to why do you guys secure crime scenes generally?
For preservation of evidence.
Okay, because you don't want other people, civilians, whoever, going into that crime scene and either taking something out that should have been there or leaving something that shouldn't be there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes it can be even done unintentionally. I mean, you could leave trace evidence, fingerprints, DNA, hairs, that could corrupt a crime scene if it's not secured.
Yes, sir.
And so this obviously, based upon the information, the best case scenario, it's up to a day, if not more, past when you believe the crime occurred, when the house is searched, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you know how long? And so was Harley there before any detectives got there?
I do not know. I was not the first one there.
And do you know how long Harley had unfettered access to the crime scene?
I do not.
She was the only, well, she's 17 at the time, but she's the closest thing to an adult civilian there when you guys get there.
Yes, sir.
It's just her and Lena.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you leave, Lena is taken from the crime scene, but Harley is left there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so again, Harley has access to the crime scene after the search is done, and then before you guys do the search the next day.
While I was at the residence, I had described that I was performing scribe duties. So I was in the kitchen area and Harley remained in my immediate view the entire time.
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. But after you guys leave and before you guys come back to do the second search, she would have had unfettered access to the crime scene.
She left while we were at the residence. I do not know if she had returned to the
Okay. So
address.
she may or may not have unfettered access to the crime scene.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Going to those videos that we were just watching, it appears that the truck gets back to the residence around 2:19. That I'm going back to the videos that we were just watching just now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is, at least the best of what you can see, it appears it's Ms. Stauch and Gannon getting out of the truck at that point in time and going into the residence.
Yes, sir.
And then about sometime after 3, we see the school bus, and it looks like Lena then goes into the house around 3:11, 3:10, 3:11.
It's a little bit after that, but yes, sir.
Okay. I also noticed on that video, it appears during the whole course of the day, there was a lot of utility workers on that street right in front of the house working on that transponder, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you never interviewed any of those utility workers?
Detective Arndt was going to be reaching out to them.
To the best of your knowledge, did any of those utility workers report hearing gunshots?
Not that I'm aware of.
Based from that video, if somebody's coming from the south, you can't really tell. I mean, somebody could come from the south and get into that house and be undetected, correct?
Potentially, yes.
Well, I mean, it appears Lena did that when she came back from her bike,
Yes, sir.
because we see her leave on the bike and you watched close to like 48 hours of that video, correct?
Yes, sir.
A lot of video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we see Lena leave on that bike. We never see her go back in the house from
Yes,
the
sir.
bike trip.
Yes, sir.
And then we see her leave the house with Harley to get in the car, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it appears that somehow Lena was able to access and get inside the house that was not captured on that video, correct?
Yes, sir.
In some portion of that video, especially during the day, that actually appears or sounds like you get some pretty decent sound quality.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you can actually hear Lena talking with the utility worker there.
Yes, sir.
And that doesn't feel like they're yelling. It kind of appears like they're just talking.
Yes, sir.
You never heard any gunshots in the 48 hours of video that you reviewed.
Not that I recall, sir.
And then lastly, that the next morning, for some reason, it doesn't appear to be sound on the video. Do you know why?
I do not.
Do you know why sometimes there's sound on the video and sometimes there's not?
I do not.
Okay. No further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Sure. In an ideal situation, you'd like to show up to a crime scene right after the crime happens, correct?
Yes, sir.
And one of the reasons you want to do that is because you don't want whoever committed a crime to clean up that crime scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, who was controlling when police came to the house on January 27th, 2020?
Mr. and Miss Stauch.
The reason why the sheriff's office got involved at all is because Miss Stauch called 911, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she called 911 shortly after 6 p.m. that evening.
Yes, sir.
Police arrived shortly after 10 p.m. that evening.
I think initial responders had arrived earlier. The detectives did not arrive until later.
But you can see when you're looking at the video on 6643 when the sheriff deputies showed up, right? It was after 10 p.m. that night.
I believe so.
Okay. And the jury's already seen the body worn camera of Deputy Yumpkin and the audio of Deputy Parker.
Objection, another question.
Yeah, sustained.
Hold
on.
I agree.
Jury, that's good, because I'm going to tell the jury that they will disregard counsel's comments. As we know, nothing that the attorneys say at any point in time is evidence. Mr. Young, if you have a question.
So you were able to see when the deputies arrived on January 27th, 2020
Yes, sir.
for the first time,
Yes, sir.
and that was after 10 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Now, based on your investigations and your career as a deputy in the sheriff's office, have you been called out to gunshots fired, those type of scenes?
Yes, sir.
And have you done neighborhood canvasses where there's been gunshots alleged to be fired?
Yes, sir.
And have you talked to neighbors who have both heard gunshots?
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to neighbors who did not hear gunshots?
Yes, sir.
Is there ways to muffle the gunshot?
Yes, sir.
Is it surprising to you that no one heard a gunshot when Gannon was killed?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
No, sir.
Did you even know that Gannon had been shot until after March of 2020 when his body was discovered?
I did not.
Did you even know to ask anyone if they heard gunshots?
I did not.
Those are my questions, Your Honor.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Perry? No? All right. Thank you, Detective. You may step down.